Welcome back for another episode of Hoeology Podcast. This is your host, Destiny. So, first of all, we made it to 2025. That's not a small thing. Also, happy Black History Month. There's just so much going on in the world, especially in the US right now. I feel like we need just a little mental health break. We need a woosah, turn our brain off, and relax. So, today's episode, we're going to take it way back to where we got the idea for Hoeology, what's going on with Hoeology, and what's to come in 2025. So, in late 2016, early 2017, I was with my friend and we had the idea to start a podcast. And this was before podcasts were big, they were low key starting to turn up, but it wasn't as big as it is right now, where everyone and their mother has a podcast. So we got the idea. We realized a lot of people were coming to us for advice for sex, or we were always talking about things that we wanted to try sexually. We had known each other since middle school, and we were at the time young adults, just in that phase of just discovering our sexuality. So this was going to be a low impact outlet for us. And I actually came up with the name Hoeology after we were talking about how there's 10 million definitions for the word hoe, and why people are even using the word hoe when really everybody is just trying to figure out what works for them sexually and what they want to explore sexually. So at the time that we started Hoeology, this friend had ended a relationship with a woman and was in a serious relationship with a guy. And so I was actually in a relationship myself, but it was kind of on its last legs. And essentially right around that time, Hoeology was born. And our episodes were a hit. People in our immediate community were fucking with it. People that we really didn't even know that for real had heard about it or seen us post about it on social media. We were getting a little bit more risque with the things that we were talking about. And it really was just starting to feel like that outlet that we were looking for. Now, there was absolutely some drama with the podcast. For example, I was doing the majority of the editing of the episodes. She was finding most of the guests for the episodes. And it kind of just became a lot to juggle with our regular everyday lives, as things do. That's life. You still have to work a job. You still have to cater to your spouses, and family things come up. You just never know. So it kind of started to die down a little bit, but I loved what it meant and what it represented. And I was really pushing for it to keep going. And so this friend ended up getting engaged, and it was great. And her fiance didn't really have an issue with the podcast, but I understood why she chose to kind of step back and just really focus on her relationship. And that left me, just me, with Hoeology. So once that happened, I actually ended up ending my relationship because it was just toxic and not healthy, and it was very dangerous. But anyway, I pretty much continued on the best that I could. I really wanted to narrow down the why behind it and really truly decide do I want to keep this going? Am I going to be able to do this? And being a one-woman show was extremely humbling. Like I said, I was already doing the editing and producing, but now having to do 100% of the episode ideas and find the guests and all of the things, it got overwhelming. But I think one of the greatest assets that I have, and that I love and have been able to pour into through this podcast, is my creativity. Truly, I have 10 million different ideas going through my head at any point of the day. And I love that I can just kind of spitball and brainstorm pretty quickly. But one of my greatest weaknesses is execution. So I'll think about something or I'll have the idea, but actually bringing it to life, bringing it to fruition is something I struggle with. I've talked about it in therapy. I've talked about it with my business coaches. It's something I'm still working on, honestly, to this day. So yeah. So between 2018, 2019, and then entering 2020, I kept doing episodes, but they were definitely more sporadic, definitely less than the consistency that I had with my previous partner. But in 2020 to 2024, it just like, it went downhill fast for me. Like, I take full accountability in saying that I fell off with Hoeology. Like, I had episodes, but I was in a place mentally where I was struggling to set like healthy workplace boundaries, and I was in like two and kind of a half serious relationships. So I really wasn't prioritizing the one thing I should have been, which is my podcast and my brand of Hoeology. Like, the one thing I'm proud of and the one thing that's honestly mine. Like, I love Hoeology because I get to bring experiences to the episode and talk about them freely. Like, I'm talking to a mic. There's nobody here to judge me. I can get out my deepest desires, or I can get out my real feelings behind a situation, and I don't have to hear chatter back to me. Most of the time, the people that are listening are like, hell yeah, like they understand me. So I really loved that. And I liked getting to talk about the fun I was having, like being a sugar baby, and honestly, some of the tragic, intimate relationships that I was in, like my Going Raw episodes. It honestly became like a therapy session for me. But, I'm sure that you can imagine that the people I was dating were not too happy about with that, and it was not too popular with them. I kind of talked about it on the emotionally digmatized episode. It was just, it was not pretty. And pretty much once they found out that they either were or weren't worthy of being mentioned on the podcast, like, they were just not fans. And honestly, that includes my marriage. I knew getting married that it was gonna, even though he listened to the episodes, being a fan of something and then being involved in something is totally different. And I think there have been maybe like 2 or 3 conversations we've had where he was like iffy about the content. And at that point, it triggered something in me where I just felt like I wanted to give up. Like, I wanted to forego the headache of maintaining this brand, maintaining this podcast, like all together, because of the instances I had in the past. And then in the instance I was having with my own husband, where it was just like, bro, I'm tired of being silenced. I'm tired of men in my life telling me what I should and shouldn't do and what I can and can't say. Like, this is who I have been since 2017. Why are they expecting me to be anything different? Like, I cannot, like, the one thing I love about Hoeology too is that I've been able to be authentic. Like, this podcast is authentic. If I'm talking about a story, or if I'm talking about a product I recommend, or an experience I've had, it's authentic. So to ask me to like, oh, I don't want to be on the podcast, or oh, don't talk about this on, like, it felt very silencing, and it was like, I would just rather not deal with it because it's not going to go anywhere, you know? So I started to incorporate more guests into my episodes. So you'll see like all of my 2024 episodes, like there's a guest in almost all of them. And I kind of pivoted, like that's just what I had to do. Like, that was my form of compromise, which is like pivot to talking about other people's experiences. And I still was feeling kind of silenced. So I was pivoting then again into my content creation bag. And like, if you look on my Instagram, the growth from even last year to today, like, I have developed branding. I've figured out a baby aspect of graphic design and font pairings and color coordination. Like, I really worked to brand my podcast and make Hoeology a brand. So it's not just Hoeology the podcast, it's Hoeology the brand. And I've incorporated educational aspects. I pivoted into my Foreplay Friday series and my Toy Friend Tea series. Particularly for me, the Foreplay Friday series was a way for me to cater to couples and relationships in an area where I myself found that I was needing help in. Like, I was now with a different type of partner, and I say a lot, like, you shouldn't treat your current partner like your last partner because everybody is different. But to me, that meant now having to figure out ways to initiate sex, and that's something that I never really had to do. Like, I'm fucking hot. People initiate sex with me. So it was like, now I'm initiating because I want to, and I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. Like, I want to be fun. I want to be hot. I want to be sexy. But like, what does that look like? Boom, the Foreplay Friday series. I talked about on a previous episode about how I didn't get my first sex toy until I was 21. And so developing the Toy Friend Tea series became a way for me to connect with brands as a Black voice, because Black people don't be prioritizing their pleasure. And or Black women think that they only deserve struggle love, which is not true. And also, I wanted my community to know that they had a representative, or like representation, in addition to being someone that was still exploring sex toys. Like, I had just turned 30 in December, so I really only had experience with sex toys for 9 years, and it's been pretty much the same couple toys. So having this series gave me a way to explore sex toys in real time. So kind of like how I was telling stories previously on Hoeology in real time, I was now doing the same thing of still getting to explore, but with sex toys now in real time. And no, I don't mean OnlyFans. With these like developments and pivoting, I've kind of switched over to a more content focused role, adding videos in the mix now. And honestly, my podcast did lose like first place in my priorities, just because I've had to cut so much out and I've had to pivot with the content that I'm able to bring to the podcast. It's a different space now, but Hoeology will and always be like my baby. Like, I had to figure out a way to pivot. And I think the biggest kind of revelation for me with Hoeology came in August of 2024. I got laid off and I felt like, okay, this is the moment you've been waiting for. Like, this is it. Go 100%, give it all you got, like go hard with your content, work on what kind of episodes you want. And if you want to get back to telling stories, then figure out how to make that happen. And like, essentially I was just given the time and opportunity to be more intentional with Hoeology. And I can confidently say that I have seen the results of that. And I feel like I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. Now, that doesn't mean that like I obviously don't want to keep growing and keep going, but like I'm ready to pivot again. Like, I want to bring more episodes. I want more host shit, and I want the OG feel of Hoeology. Like, I wouldn't have the growth that I've seen this last year between even 2023, because my podcast did numbers in 2023. But I wouldn't be there without the podcast. I wouldn't have a content creation platform without the podcast. I wouldn't have Foreplay Friday. I wouldn't have even like the Toy Friend Tea, like brands reaching out to me to say, hey, we want to work with you, without this podcast. So I think that it gave me and validated me and healed me. And to turn away from that would be a crime, I think, because I've honestly kept it going since 2017, like, and it's 2025 now. Like, talk about growth. So today, what I've been able to brand Hoeology as is the conversation that happens between curiosity and exploration. So I've always felt like, again, I was excited to help my friends with discovering their sexuality, or giving them sex toys, or being able to act as like a resource to finding information in the sexuality and wellness industry. Hoeology is your bestie. Like, that's how it started, with two best friends. And that's what I wanted to continue to be. It's there if you just want to hear host stories. It's there if you just want to learn, or if you've always wanted to know about a topic. Like, what's it like to be a dominatrix? What is it like to be an exotic dancer? Like, what's it like to be a male, sugar baby? Like, all those topics are there. I guarantee you don't know a male sugar baby. I guarantee you don't know a professional dominatrix in your day-to-day life. But I do. And I've been able to talk to them and bring their experience and their perspective to life. Not what some Hollywood writer is going to put in a book or a movie. Not what you think you know based on stereotypes. Like, the real deal. I brought it to life, and I want to continue to do that, as well as incorporate my own perspective and views. So Hoeology is for the girls, it's for the girls, it's for everybody in between. So starting in February, I will be dropping one episode every other week. And the off weeks, check out my Foreplay Friday series and my Toy Friend Tea reviews. They are on my Instagram at Hoeology Pod. And I just want to say to the hoes that have been here since the beginning, I sincerely thank you for your support and for sticking along for this BHE Big Hoe energy. I know that orange potato is really fucking with our lives on the day to day, and it is unfortunate that we have to deal with it, but don't forget to take care of yourself. I will be putting some resources for reproductive and abortion access in my show notes because you can never be too safe, and we love safe hoes out here. But please continue to support, and I thank you guys for sticking with me for the last 8 years. Like, this has truly been amazing, and it's only the beginning. So, happy hoeing!